Hello and good morning, everybody. It is April 22nd, 2017, and welcome to the Ultraman Explained podcast. For those of you that don't know, you can find the YouTube channel at Ultraman Explained. Just search that on YouTube, where I have many videos concerning very many different things over the Ultraman universe. We also have a Twitter. I have a Twitter page at Ultra Explained on Twitter. And on Facebook, it is Ultraman Explained. If you want to search that, there's the fan page there where we can go and speak with each other and actually get to know each other, have some good chats, and enjoy conversation with other great, knowledgeable people. Now, today's topic is going to be a topic that has been highly debated since the origin of both of these television shows, and that is Godzilla versus Ultraman. Now, this is actually going to be one of a probably 2 or 3 part series that I'm going to be doing, because I have 2 guests that really want to speak on this matter too, and they're very knowledgeable on the topic as well. Possibly a little biased, but I think it'll be interesting. That's why I'm going to go ahead and start mine off. Basically, today what I'm going to do is I am going to get a little bit more factual, and I am going to get a little bit more into the facts of things and kind of compare stats between the characters and who I think would win. Now, the one thing I want the Ultraman audience and the Godzilla audience to remember is that Super Aya Productions actually owned the rights to the Godzilla suit. Toho, although using it frequently and making it famous, did not own the Godzilla suit. That's why we see the monster Jurass in what is now called, Ultraman Hayata, or just Ultraman, the original series. We see Jurass, which literally is the Godzilla suit. That was supposed to answer fans' want, because even back then, fans really wanted to see Ultraman versus Godzilla. So the fight between Ultraman and Jurass was supposed to be what it would be like versus Ultraman versus Godzilla, except of course they can't use Godzilla for copyright reasons, so they painted his suit different and gave him a hood. He has all of the same moves as Godzilla except for the mouth blast. His mouth blast is slightly different in the fact that he shoots out more of an electronic ray. And there's a lot of people that also complained that Jurass was really tamed down in comparison to what Godzilla is. Now, the problem I have with this argument is every time people talk about Godzilla versus Ultraman, they always immediately assume the newest incarnation of Godzilla, who is everybody knows to be a super tough guy. And then they assume the oldest incarnation of Ultraman, the first one that we were actually even told about, who's probably, I hate to say it, the most dumbed down, Ultraman Hayata. Which I think is kind of an unfair comparison, because you are taking the most recent Godzilla that has had all these rebirths and random things done to him and these crazy battles and this, that, and the other, and then you're taking an old Hayata that at the time they didn't even fully understand what the Ultraman could become. So I think the argument between who would win between Godzilla and Ultraman is a little unfair in the fact that, people are getting the newest canon Godzilla, who is way overpowered, against the original Ultraman, who is probably the most dumbed down Ultraman we've seen. Now, if we were taking, say, the combination of Ultraman Cosmos and Justice, I'm sorry, the name slips my brain at the moment. If we were to take that against Godzilla, there would be no contest. Godzilla would be wiped off the face of the planet quicker than you could say cat crap. Or like taking, Ultraman Orb against Godzilla. Look at how he handled Mago Orochi and those guys. It would be no problem. One thing that people bring up all the time is that Godzilla technically is taller than Ultraman and weighs more than Ultraman, I believe. So with that being the case, he has a weight advantage and a height advantage on Godzilla, or excuse me, on Ultraman. But we have seen from many a fight that Ultraman really, the original Ultraman Hayata, didn't really have too much of a problem fighting monsters that were bigger than him. And the monster I can think of just comes to my mind immediately is that plant monster. I don't remember its name, but in his fight with that, it stood much taller than he, and was tall enough that it could clamp down on the top of his head and like start eating him. So I mean, that was a much bigger monster than him, and he fight it. Not to mention, guys, I mean, he fought the Godzilla suit. So regardless of what we want to say as far as height differential, he fought the actual Godzilla suit. It doesn't matter that they renamed it Jurass and painted it and gave it a hood and maybe dumbed down its powers, so that some people say, which I disagree with, and this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter. It was still the Godzilla suit. So the height would be comparable. Why? Because we have the full-size Ultraman and we have the full-size Godzilla suit that was being used at that time. But to be honest with you guys, I think it would be a fairer estimate to go against the original Godzilla from the first movie and the original Ultraman from the first series. So Ultraman Hayata versus the original Godzilla, which is a very, very different question, and I think people need to consider that in the battle between Godzilla versus Ultraman. So today we're going to compare some stats, as I said, and we're going to give you kind of a comparison, and then I'm going to give you my assessment of what I believe would happen. And then, of course, there's two more parts with two other individuals, so you can hear kind of the other side of the argument as well. So first and foremost, we are going to go to the original Godzilla, also known as Gojira. He stands at a height of about 50 meters tall, and his weight is 20,000 tons. His regular abilities are his swimming skills, as he's an incredible swimmer in the original movies. He has incredibly sharp teeth, and he has a tail to be reckoned with. He could knock somebody's block off with his tail. His special abilities is he has thermonuclear breath. However, this thermonuclear breath does need to be conjured and needs time to be fired. His weaknesses is he's scared off by jets, and in the original series he was scared off by jets and really did not enjoy getting shot at by the military, and sometimes would retreat into the water. And that was from his original film appearance in 1954, and then later in Godzilla King of Monsters in 1956. Now, according to legend, Godzilla was a monster that lived on off the coast of a small island. The legend comes true when Godzilla is woken up by an H-bomb, and he attacks Tokyo but leaves. He attacks it again, destroys the military and wreaks havoc, but he is scared off by the jets and is killed by an oxygen destroyer. So in that movie, literally, he's scared off by jets. Let's keep that in the back of our heads here, guys. As far as fighting power, since he's never really been in many fights the original Godzilla, it is difficult to tell how well he fights. It is assumed that he is able to fight just as well as future Godzillas with slightly lack of experience since he's younger. This is the Godzilla from which Godzillas are based on, rather they are resurrected forms of him and have similar origins. So they're not the same Godzilla. If we're taking a new Godzilla versus Ultraman, the original, we should take the original Godzilla, who actually was, as you just heard, a different Godzilla. So now we're going to compare Ultraman Hayata's stats to that. Give me one moment here for it to load up. Because I believe in just what I've seen that they were close in weight. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, so from what I find, I guess I did find some information. It looks like Ultraman Hayata stood at a height of 40 meters. So that's only about 10 meters shorter than Godzilla. So he's not really that much shorter than the original Godzilla. As for weight, there is a bit of a weight difference. Like I said, Godzilla was weighing 20,000 tons, and it appears that Ultraman Hayata actually weighs 35,000 tons. So actually, Ultraman Hayata is the one, surprisingly, that weighs heavier than the original Godzilla and is only 10 meters shorter. So again, that lends credibility to the fact that if we were taking the original Godzilla versus the original Ultraman, it might not be such a close fight like everybody thinks. Secondly, his flight speed is Mach 5. He is capable of moving at Mach 5. Godzilla, we know, is a slow, clunky tank. He can take a lot of abuse, but he is a slow, clunky tank. And at the end of the day, what it comes down to for me after reading that, it just kind of sealed it in my brain for me. If we're taking the original Godzilla versus the original Ultraman, I personally do not believe that the original Godzilla would be able to stand up to the original Ultraman. As you just heard in the comparison of the stats, the original Ultraman is not only heavier than he is, which means if you know anything about fighting, he has a lot more weight to put behind his punches and his attacks, and Godzilla's tail attack would be rendered almost useless because he would have less weight to throw at Ultraman, and Ultraman would have more weight to be able to stop himself, plant himself, and catch his tail. And we've seen Ultraman Hayata and what he does to animals who try to use tail attacks against him. He grabs them and chucks chucks him across the screen, you know? So at the end of the day, and not to mention the fact that he can move at Mach 5, when the original Godzilla was just pretty much a clunky dinosaur. He marched around and couldn't really do a whole lot. I mean, like I said, you never really even see him fight anything, and he was scared off by fighter jets. And you have an intense fighter like Ultraman Hayata, who knows many different martial arts, on top of being able to move at the speed of Mach 5. And granted, yes, he does have a color timer that will limit him to 3 minutes, but with the stats that I just read, and the fact that Godzilla was scared off enough by jets even, and that he requires summon time for his thermonuclear mouth blast, Ultraman requires no summon time for his beam at all. He just puts his arms together and that happens. And not to mention, it has been shown that Ultraman can pretty much stand up to most monsters he fights. Granted, there's about 2 or 3 battles in that series where he doesn't exactly do so good, but like I said, those monsters are also in the Ultraman universe seen as some of the stronger monsters in the Ultraman universe. Now, do I think now my final opinion, so I guess I can stop ranting on this issue. I'm going to take this argument back to what it is, and that is the argument is, would Godzilla win versus Ultraman in a fight? If we are taking the newest Ultraman versus the newest Godzilla, no. And I say no. And it compares, and now comparing the stats of the original Ultraman to the original Godzilla, do I think Godzilla would win in a fight between the original Godzilla and the original Ultraman? I am also now firmly set at no. One, I think Godzilla would try to retreat, and Ultraman is the type of being that he's not going to leave a monster alive like that, so can continue attacking humanity. He would probably catch it and continue messing it up with all of the time that he has for his color timer, and to the point in which he can't anymore and leave. If not, use his arm blast to completely destroy Godzilla, especially seeing as how he is only about 10 meters taller than him. And if any of you have ever watched UFC, you can see that, you know, somebody who weighs a lot more than another guy usually has a lot heavier punches. Let's use Brock Lesnar versus, say, Frank Mir. There was no chance. They were about the same size guy. One guy was a little bit heavier, and the heavier guy had much heavier punches. And although he was tapped out the first time, he whooped that butt the second time. So again, if it were original Godzilla versus original Ultraman, Ultraman would win. If it was hyped up Godzilla versus newest Ultraman, I think it would be a fight down to the death. I think it would literally be, I think Ultraman would win down in my heart, but at the end of the day, I'll settle with the fact that it would probably be a fight to the death. Neither one of them would make it out. But anyways, guys, that's where I said on this topic of Godzilla versus Ultraman. This will be the 1 in a 3-part series. I'm hoping to have legendary YouTuber and one of my favorite YouTubers, Goji73, also talk on this topic with me, and one of my good friends, Nick, who also has a YouTube channel. Definitely go check those guys out if you haven't. I will link their channels in the description of this when I post this on YouTube, as well as the podcast when I upload it. But anyways, guys, thank you guys for listening, and I hope that you guys found this useful and interesting and informative. Go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel on YouTube, Ultraman Explained, if you get the chance. Follow the podcast so I know that you're watching and liking it. Give me some hearts down there so I know you enjoy it. Go ahead and like the Twitter, or like and follow the Twitter page, and definitely like the Ultraman Facebook page, because that's where I'm the most active, and that's where we will be able to talk to each other the most. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening, and you all have a wonderful day. Go ahead and leave me a comment at the bottom of this video telling me what you think, or any other videos you'd like to see me do in the future. Go ahead and smash the like button, as it lets me know I'm doing something right. And go ahead and hit subscribe so that you can stay up to date with all the videos released here on Ultraman Explained. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.